Hey guys, Techie Champion here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about GNS3, how to download it, how to install it, how to get your routers going, and all that good stuff. So if you haven't heard of GNS3, what it is it's router emulation software. So it's going to allow you to emulate actual Cisco IOS images in a virtual environment on your computer. This is really essential to setting up routing labs and for studying Cisco CCNA and CCNP material. Because what this is going to do is if you don't have physical equipment handy, this is the next best thing once you have this set up. Keep in mind that you don't actually get Cisco iOS images with this program. You have to kind of go online and find them for yourself. So keep that in mind. But go ahead and head over to GNS3.com. Sign up with them, give them your email address, set up a password, and download the software. I already have it installed on my computer, so once you have it downloaded and installed, go ahead and open it up. It's going to ask you to name your project. I'm just going to name mine YouTube. It's going to give you this blank template. This is going to be your workspace. And keep in mind that when you're running this program, it's going to utilize your actual computer resources. This needs actual hardware resources to be able to run. So you're going to be kind of limited to the resources that you have available to run this. So keep that in mind. Typically, though, it doesn't use a whole lot. I mean, the routers I'm using use about 512 megs of RAM, which isn't much. So if I click up here where the routers should be, it's empty right now. If you don't have any router images available to you, then just do a Google search. Open up Google and type this in. GNS3 iOS images for router 7200 download. The recommended image to run in this program is the C7200 image. And I would recommend looking for the I think it's the advanced enterprise services version of it, so you have all of the features available to you. So go ahead and try to Google search to see if you can find an image for free. There's quite a few blogs out there that actually have the image attached to their blog for you to download. So just do a little searching and see if you can find yourself an image. Keep in mind though, I can't guarantee the validity of any image that you may download. But we're IT people here. We're network engineers. We're able to run virus scans and kind of make sure that whatever we're downloading is safe. So use your best judgment when doing that. But once you have your image, what you're going to do is go to Edit, Preferences. You're going to go down to iOS routers and select New. You're going to select New Image, and then you're going to browse to the path where you have the image saved on your computer. So I actually happen to have the C7200 Advanced Enterprise image available. So I'm going to go ahead and point my GNS3 to that. I'm going to click Next. We're going to name the router, which I'm just going to name it C7200 so I know what it is. Select the platform. I believe these are the platforms that you're able to run, but the C7200 is the recommended one. There's really nothing to choose for chassis, so just go ahead and click Next. Here you're gonna allocate the amount of RAM that you want to give to the router. So remember that this is going to use your actual computer RAM. So keep that in mind. By default, it only needs 512 megabytes to run. So I mean, 2 routers equals 1 gig of RAM. That's not a whole lot. It's not too bad. Even if you have 4 gigs of RAM in your computer, you can still get away with building fairly decent topologies in here. So we'll go ahead and click next, and here it's going to ask us to give it interfaces. So there's 6 slots available on the chassis for interface cards. By default, the first slot 0 here is set for the fast Ethernet. I'm going to go ahead and change it to gigabit Ethernet. And then I'm going to look for slot 1. I'm going to choose PA-GE, which is also a gigabit Ethernet interface. And I'm just going to give my router all gigabit Ethernet interfaces. You can go ahead and play around with some of this stuff if you're interested in it, but just for labs, I mean, the gigabit Ethernet interface is going to be fine. So I'm just going to fill it up with 6 gigabit Ethernet interfaces here and click next. I'm sorry, 7. There's 7 total. I can't count. So after you click next, it's going to ask you to find your idle PC value, which what it's going to do is test your processor at idle. So what it tries to do here is make sure that it doesn't use too much of your processor, which if you have a decently strong processor, you're not going to have to worry about this. But go ahead and click idle PC finder, let it run. Shouldn't take too long. It's going to do its little testing here. Now, like I said, this program is for routing only. There are virtual switches that come with the program, but they're the equivalent to a dumb switch or an unmanaged switch. There's no iOS image available to run in GNS3 as far as switching is concerned. So keep that in mind. This is primarily for routing practice. So I found my PC idle value and I'm going to click finish and OK. Up here, we're going to select the router tab, and now we have this nice C7200 router available. I'm going to drag it out to the workspace. We'll drag 2 of them out. Close this. And then you're going to want to right click on the router and select start. And this is the equivalent of turning on the power button on a physical router. And if you look over here in the top right, these buttons went from red to green, indicating that they're on. You have these buttons up here, which if you hit this, it'll start all of your routers at the same time, but it's not recommended to do that. It's recommended to actually start them individually, but you can stop them all at the same time once you're done with your project, because when you're finished and you need to save, you have to actually shut down the routers to be able to save everything. So keep that in mind. So once our routers are fired up, I'm going to right click and go to console. This is going to give me a nice command line interface for both of these routers. It's real iOS image. So our routers are up and running. I'm going to close these out for now. Down here, if you click on this little wire tool here, this is the connection tool. So unlike Packet Tracer, this doesn't actually allow you to choose the cabling. It's going to automatically do it. So I'm going to click it on the router here and select the interface, which is gigabit Ethernet 0/0. Drag it over to the other router. And there's my connection. Then you can right click to get off that connection tool and back to your mouse pointer. So I showed you that you can hit this console button, but what I recommend doing is using a program like Super Putty to actually open up all of your routers. In one of my previous videos, must-have tools for the CCNA, I showed you guys kind of how to download and install a few particular tools. I mentioned Super Putty in that video, so go ahead and watch that video if you haven't, to kind of get an idea of some other networking tools that you should be running. I happen to have Super Putty installed right here, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up. And what this is going to allow me to do is connect into my GNS3 routers over a telnet connection. So if you look here, it says telnet, the loopback address, and a port. So every time you open a new router, it's going to be listening on a telnet port to be able to connect into it. So if you open up SuperPutty, right here where it says protocol, you're going to go ahead and change that to telnet. I'm going to give it the host address, which happens to be my loopback because I'm running it locally on my computer. Colon, the port number, 5000. That's going to connect me right into R1. I'm going to right click here on the tab and rename it R1. And then I'm going to change that to a 5001. And there's my R2. So I'm going to go ahead and rename the tab to R2. And now I have both my routers right here in a nice window together. And I can just click on these tabs to switch back and forth. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So there's our two routers. Let's go ahead and set up a small little lab real quick to see how it works. So we'll do conf t, interface G0/0. We'll give it an IP address of 192.168.1.1 with a /24 subnet mask. We'll give it a no shut to bring the interface online. And then you should get the message that it changed state to up. Now you may be thinking, hey, the link right here is green. Wasn't it up already? No, it wasn't. All this link indicates is that the router is powered on. So don't be fooled by that, thinking that your interface is up because this link is green. That's not the case. This just indicates that the router is powered on. So you actually have to no shut the interface just like you would on a real router. So we have our IP address on this router. We'll go ahead and go over to R2. Go to interface gig 00. We'll give it an IP address of 192.168.1.2 /24 subnet mask. No shut. Verify that our interface comes up, which it does. Now let's see if we can ping. And the ping was successful. So there's our little tiny lab here just to test. Both these routers are online. They're connected and they're able to ping each other. There are a few other tools in here that you can use. I know earlier I mentioned that they have a dumb switch available to you. If you drag it out and right click configure, this is all you get with the switch. If you need a switch for whatever reason, you can throw this switch in here and connect your routers to it. But there is no iOS available with this switch. So you kind of just configure what you need in this GUI and it's good to go. I don't really use this for anything. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. GNS3 is for routing. As you guys have probably realized, you can use this to set up fairly large topologies right here on your own computer. And that's going to save you on your electric bill. I always recommend using physical equipment if you have it available to you, but this comes in handy just as well because it's the same thing. It's just you're using your computer as the physical part. The iOS image is exactly the same as what you would find on a physical router. Last thing I'm going to show you guys here. One thing that's pretty cool is you can right click on here and you can change the symbol. So even though this is a router, I can change it to a cloud to make it kind of represent my internet connection if I wanted to drag out another router, connect it in. It's still my R1, but for the cool thing about GNS3 is, it allows you to kind of build the topology and look at it as you're configuring your labs. So that's GNS3 in a nutshell, guys. There's a lot more you can do with this program, but that's the basics. Go out there, download it, find yourself an image, get this installed. We're going to be doing a lot of labs in the future here on this channel. I am studying for my CCNP currently, so I'm going to be using this tool along with a couple others to lab up and get this stuff done. So feel free to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, drop me a comment. Thank you.